Hello, everyone, and welcome to episode 5 of the Maritime Witch. This episode, we are diving into the realm of the psychic medium. Sean is here with me again. He's always here with me because he does my sound.
And I got nowhere else to go.
Well, I can't do it without you.
Well, thank you.
But I'm sure Sean's going to have some comments and questions for this episode.
Sure.
I'm going to start with talking about the 4 clairs. Now, actually, there's 5. There is clairaudience, clairvoyance, clairsentience, claircognizance, and the lesser known clairolfaction. Now, clairaudience is hearing voices, short, calm bursts of a voice, very straightforward, one-word message or number. I don't put myself out there as a psychic medium. I don't think that I connect in that way with the spirit side, although I have had a couple of experiences with clairaudience, and the persons that I was with when these experiences happened, actually the message that came through was very genuine, and we'll discuss that in a future episode, perhaps once I get their permission to dive into that further. Clairvoyance, seeing images. Most of the time, I think they come as a metaphor, not something that I have personally experienced. Clairsentience, just recognizing feelings or an instinct. Claircognizance is just a knowing, immediate download from your intuition. And the lesser known, clairolfaction, is actually quite overlooked in the psychic community. It is like phantom smells. It can include pleasant or not so pleasant odors.
But remember, the giant has a keen sense of smell. If he smells a stranger, he will say, fee, fi, fo, fum. And then you must run for your life because that means he's discovered you.
I don't have a strong sense of smell normally. A strong sense of smell for me, it has to be a very strong odor for me to pick up on it. Sinus damage. Anyways, but I have had some experiences with clairolfaction, and we will discuss that in a future episode as well. Just being a paranormal investigator, a lot of that has been when those experiences have happened. So, psychic mediums, what are they? Well, these are people who communicate with spiritual beings, and they serve as a channel or a portal to communicate with the spirits. Some of the most famous that I know, that I'm familiar with, Tyler Henry, obviously, the Hollywood medium, has a series called Life After Death.
My job as a medium is to deliver messages. I receive impressions. I get very small tidbits of details that I have to interpret and make sense of. The answers I give to others, I so badly could benefit for myself. Do you want to know everything?
I actually enjoyed that series, and while I was watching that series, actually had my own experience with something I haven't quite figured out yet. A future episode. June Field holds the title of the world's greatest medium, and Mary Lawton Johnson is a gifted remote viewing psychic who has done a lot of work with the police. And another one that is, again, quite popular with being in the limelight is John Edward with the show Crossing Over.
Hi, I'm psychic medium John Edward, and I'm here at the Kelly Clarkson Show, and I'm about ready to go out into the audience. I'm going to see what I can pick up for them and see if they have any questions.
So why do we go to psychic mediums? Why do we seek them out? Primarily, it is to connect with loved ones who have passed. Usually we're in a time of grief and you just want to have a connection. There's just kind of something missing from your life, or, you know, sometimes you can go to a show where it's like a bigger audience. You're not necessarily going to get chosen out of that audience, whereas a one-on-one obviously is the reading is just for you. So I've had 4 readings done. 3 of them were pre-COVID and 1 just recently. So 2 were just random walk-ins. I was at a psychic fair, or at a holistic fair, I was actually a vendor and just kind of had a downtime and had friends with me helping out at my table. And there was a gentleman there by the name of Mike Thompson. He is from New Glasgow, Nova Scotia. Mystic Mike. I'm sorry, Mike. There's a lot of times I just forget and call you Magic Mike, and I know that you are not a stripper, and I do apologize for that. So this was in 2017 of April. And again, I just like Mike had a little bit of downtime. I had some downtime at the fair. So I was like, oh, you know what? I'm just going to like randomly have a reading done. And it wasn't very long. My butt wasn't in the chair for very long. And Mike looked at me and he said, you have just endured one of the toughest years of your life. He said, there has been so much grief in your life. He said, you haven't had time to recover from one passing to another. And that was on the heels of my 2016. And our 2016 was what I refer to as the year from hell, because the death in our families started in March, and every 3 to 4 to 5 weeks for the remainder of the year, there was some form of a death, either with friends or in our own families. And he had me in tears because he had no idea. He had no idea who I was. We had only met that day. This is someone who had no time to do any kind of research. Mike also discussed things at work. Like these are just things that Mike couldn't have known by doing research. You know what I mean? He had no time to do research. I was just a walk-in. So if you get a chance to go to Mike's a great medium. Another walk-in that I did was with Rita Crosby. Rita and Phil have sound beings. They do gong therapy. And Rita does readings. And it was just by chance. We were in town and we were shopping, and she was doing readings at a local shop. And I just happened to hop on Facebook and there was an opening. So I thought, oh, well, I'm here. Let me do it. And again, she didn't know me. I had tried to book a reading with Rita actually at a fair, but our times kind of just didn't coincide. So it was just something that didn't happen. So I was quite happy to get this reading. And she dove into my ancestry and she told me things that I didn't know. And she told me things that I did know, but she told me some things that I didn't know. So I kind of, when I walked away from the reading, I was just like, well, I don't think those were intended for me. And it wasn't until afterwards that I was speaking with family members that those things then became validated. It was just information that had never been shared with me. And Rita also nailed some projects that I was working on, very specific and very detailed. And the only person who knew that I was doing those projects at that time was me. So she's very, very gifted. The session was very upbeat and very vibrant. It was a lot of fun. And it was well worth my time and my money. My most expensive, I booked 4 months in advance. And because I had to book so far ahead, I had kind of shut down a lot of my Facebook just because I didn't want this person to kind of go through my Facebook account, and they were highly acclaimed. I'm not going to name names here because I wasn't pleased with this reading. They have a lot of notoriety. I booked it on a particular date for a particular reason. It was a date that held some importance to me, and I felt that I was trying to open up as many psychic doorways as I could. This is the very first reading that I had that led me to be very skeptical. And like I said, I'm not going to mention any names only because I'm not going to publicly diss anybody for doing what they do. So I'm not on social media a whole lot. Like I have Facebook. If you Google search me, there's not a lot that's going to come up. So really the only mention of me on the internet is I was mentioned in my father-in-law and my mother-in-law's obituaries. And I was also associated with paranormal investigating with Oak Island, which became quite public for a certain amount of time there, especially once the show started. And while I love my in-laws very much, I just kind of don't feel like they'd be busting through the afterlife to come and chat with me. Sorry, honey.
It's quite okay.
I see someone's father.
What does he have to say?
I cannot answer that question. I'm just a humble medium, and I take these grief seances very seriously.
When I had this reading done, my mother-in-law's name was not quite right, but close enough that it was kind of like trying to be a hit. This person also had to ask me if my parents were still alive. I really felt like this person read the obituaries to me. There was information in those obituaries that was a little bit obscure, so it was taken the wrong way. And when it was presented to me in the wrong way, I knew exactly what they had done. I knew exactly how they had read the obituary and how they had taken it. And at that point, I just kind of knew that the whole reading was a little bit of a sham. You can do research all you want, but like I said, this one ended up in disappointment for me. And so when I looped back with the person after the reading, I told them exactly, I wasn't rude, but I said like I was disappointed and I felt that they had kind of just read the obituaries to me. I mean, at that point we were paranormal investigating, so it is my job to debunk when I need to. And this person and I had a little bit of back and forth. They got very angry with me. They started cursing and swearing at me. And so that kind of stopped me from reaching out and doing another reading for quite a while. I had researched this person. I had kind of felt like maybe there was a little bit of a connection there. So, and because of the notoriety, but it was a huge waste of money for me.
But you were nice all along. They were angry, like right off the get-go, as soon as you said you weren't really satisfied.
Yeah,
and you said it in the world's nicest way.
Well, and I mean, like I said, I'm not gonna put it out there, and please don't ask me who the psychic medium was, because that's just not my style. I just want you to be aware that not everybody out there is genuine, and the ones that you have to book, I'm not saying all of the ones that you have to book in advance, but it gave a flare of skepticism to me, only because this person had 4 months to research me, and that was all they could find. Whereas the walk-ins kind of nailed stuff like right off the get-go and told me things that there's just no possible way they could have known. So
yeah, and this person was like, how dare you? I'm this person, I'm that person, I do this, I do that.
Yeah.
And it's like, I guess there's no nice way of putting it when you say, I'm sorry, this doesn't seem like it's on the up and up.
Well, and I mean, there's definitely people out there just trying to make a buck off the industry.
Yeah.
And unfortunately, that is very easy to do, especially with social media, because a lot of people put their lives on Facebook and Instagram. And I know that this person had done a reading for someone else, a friend of a friend who I didn't know. But when I was speaking with my friend and she was telling me about all of the things that were brought forward in her reading, I hopped on her Facebook page after my friend left, and I was just like, well, there it is. Everything that was told to her was definitly all right there.
Yeah, and when you give somebody like 4 months too, I mean,
well, that's just it. And I mean, I think I think this person genuinely did their research. and I feel like that's what I paid for, was 4 months of research. But it definitely wasn't a psychic reading.
Could it be
in the least
that they just come up with that information that was public?
I don't think so. Only because there was nothing else. You know what I mean? Like I had opened up as many psychic doorways as I could by choosing the date. And after having the experience with other psychic mediums that have been able to just tell me things on a walk-in, if there was any genuine aspect to that one reading, well, there just wasn't any, not based on the other readings that I had afterwards.
Yes, and you had a family member that passed away and had chosen to keep it private.
Mm-hmm.
So obviously none of that.
Yeah, There was no funeral. There was no obituary. It was only very close family and friends. Most people in the community actually didn't know of their passing until like way after the fact, because it was their choice not to have it made public.
Yeah.
So, yeah, that wasn't out there. Like I said, this person had to ask me if, I think they kind of knew that the reading was probably going a little bit sour, and then said, are your parents still alive? I was like, well, you're the psychic medium. I kind of think you should know that, I don't know. I'm not the expert, but when I just really feel like it was not a genuine reading at all. So how do you choose? That's a tough one. I mean, this person, I did a lot of research. Again, I felt like there was this connection. It came down to 2 people, and that was the one that I chose. But it still wasn't what I wanted. I think the walk-ins are just more genuine. For me, they have been anyways. Talk to people. Ask who they went to. Asked if it was a cold reading. Were they asked any questions? What was their overall feel? Were they happy when they left? Was even sometimes you get information that for me, like my reading with Rita, there were things that she brought forward and I was just like, I don't think that's me. And then, oh yeah, it's me, because it was just validated after the fact. And sometimes that does happen. So, it's going to be a personal choice. Sometimes you're going to win. Sometimes you're going to lose. So I would start small. Don't go for the gusto like I did. Don't go and spend. I'm not going to tell you how much I spent. But the most expensive doesn't mean that they're the best. There's usually psychic mediums in every area, psychic fairs, holistic fairs, spiritual fairs. The only thing that I have had a comment from other people who have had readings done at fairs is that because they're busy and there's customers walking by at the same time, sometimes people find that a little intrusive when they have a reading done. I haven't had that experience, but I know some people mind that, so they prefer to go to the house of a medium or like just a small shop setting just to kind of have that one-on-one. Again, all a personal choice. So the reading that I had done recently is a lady by the name of Drita Marshall. I had a couple of rough weeks, and I had actually considered canceling my appointment only because I just didn't really think that I was in the right frame of mind. I didn't think that I was really in a position to receive anything coming through, but I didn't, and I went. And the messages that came through were kind of funny because we've got Drita and we've got Rita, and Drita actually had some of the same messages for me that Rita had a few years back. And it came through again, I think, because I didn't listen. And the person who came through with that same message definitely wanted me to do what they wanted me to do. Like they had set their intention and they came busting through the afterlife pretty hard and said, you need to do this. And also with Drita, it was a very intense session. She's very focused on your energies and is very focused on you. She also helped me overcome some spiritual roadblocks, let's say. But it was a great reading. And in hindsight, I'm glad that I didn't cancel because it's been a little bit life-changing because now I have decided to listen to the message that was coming through. And she's local. And if you want some more information, I'll try to, I'm not really tech savvy here, but I'll do my very best to link some Facebook pages for the good experiences that I've had. we won't link anything to the bad experience that I had.
Only the one.
Only the one. Yeah.
Yeah.
So now let's move on to the botanical section of the show.
And the time has come for plants to take back the world so rightfully ours.
So the botanical that I've chosen for this week is honeysuckle. The planet is Jupiter and the element is Earth. It is associated with money, psychic powers, protection, If a honeysuckle plant grows outside or near your home, it will bring you good luck. Personally, honeysuckle is not one of my favorites, only because I find it very smothering and it really flares my allergies. The berries are poisonous. Please don't eat them. The flowers are also toxic as well. You can put the flowers in a vase to attract prosperity, but if you're using the plant for anything, please use only the leaves and stems, and please do your research.
I bet you honeysuckle doesn't exist on Jupiter, though, right? I'm kind of thinking.
I don't know. I've never been to Jupiter.
Oh, I haven't either, so. Okay.
It might.
Okay.
So that concludes the botanical section of the show, and we will be right back.
Science fiction. A world where your imagination has no limits. And you can explore those limitless boundaries at sci-fipulse.net. And check out the SFP Now podcast on iTunes and Spotify. Because if you are listening to a really good science fiction podcast, well then, you're listening to SFP Now.
So now we're going to move on to the gemstone portion of the podcast.
I want to rock.
Today I am featuring the rainbow quartz. It is an aurora quartz associated with the moon. The elements are fire and water. It activates all of your energy centers. It helps relieve negative emotions such as resentment and grief. It can assist in communicating with spirit. It protects from stress and negativity. It's used to charge and enhance the energy of other crystals as well, and it doesn't occur naturally. It is natural quartz that is exposed to high heat, gold, and titanium to give an iridescent metallic sheen. And I actually have a really beautiful piece that I will take a picture of and post as one of the visuals. And that concludes the gemstone portion of the show. And now we're moving on to the shout-outs and celebrations. Yay!
Yeehaw.
So here we are at the shout-out section once again. And once again, we have no shout-outs. We didn't even get one marriage proposal. So I'm a little disappointed. So if you want, what are you doing? Are you getting down on your hands and knees? Oh, I'm being proposed to even though I'm already married.
Yes, true. You're married to me, but I'd still like an answer.
I think I already said yes the last time when we were talking about this. But anyways, get those shout outs in to the Maritime Witch at gmail.com. We'd be happy to put your events, your birthdays, your anniversaries, your hellos, your marriage proposals. Happy birthday to your dogs and cats and hamsters and goldfish. So ends the little shout out section once again. So thank you everyone again for joining us, and I hope you join us again on July 9th for episode 6, where we will be discussing the Wheel of the Year. And in the meantime, may the universe find you safe, happy, and healthy. Blessed be.